what's up everybody? Welcome to Kimmel's Irish Pub. Time for another one of everybody's favorite segment, Monday Night Quarterback, Week 4 edition. So what happened so far in Week 4, or what do we know about? Again, I record these before the Monday Night Football game, so it's just a look back in the week, including everything except for Monday Night Football and what's going on in fantasy football. So some things going off, like every quarterback in the league went off. Andrew Luck went off, every one of them except for like Aaron Rodgers and Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, I looked at everybody's starting lineup and everybody went off except for those two guys. I mean, it's unbelievable. They all scored over 30 points. Goff went crazy, of course. We'll talk about the Rams a little bit more, but kind of shows you that, you know, you can, any quarterback you could throw in there. And we'll talk a little bit about quarterbacks as well when we get into the Weasel of the Week. But every quarterback went off. So kind of deep pool of quarterbacks right now in fantasy football. Will it last like that all season? Who knows? Let's talk about some running backs, some underachieving running backs. Leonard Fournette and Dalvin Cook. Yes, they're injury. But I mean, if you drafted them, more than likely you might have went receiver in the first round and was able to grab one of these because you were outside the top 5. And unable to grab one of the top 5 running backs. Leave Bell out of this. We don't have to talk about that, obviously. But Fournette and Cook are completely, blowing your team because that's your maybe 1 or number 2 pick in a redraft league. In a keeper league, they're obviously your keepers, and they're not doing anything for you. I mean, Fournette played this week, and Cook played. They both played. Fournette left early, left you holding the bag there. Same thing with Cook. You didn't know what you were going to get from him, but you got to put him in there unless you had Murray, and if you put in Murray, he didn't touch the ball. So 2 pretty big disappointments right now with those 2, so hopefully they get better and help you throughout the fantasy playoffs. How about 2 receivers that I want to talk about that are underachieving thus far? ODB and Antonio Brown. I mean, Antonio Brown has a couple touchdowns, yes, but he's not as dominant as he has been in the past 2 or 3 years. Odell Beckham Jr., same thing, catching up 5 or 6 balls a game for 50, 60 yards here and there. They are underachieving very much, I think, in their roles. On the flip side, tight ends, Jared Cook, I think, is the top tight end that I'd speak about. I mean, obviously Gronk is hurt, and we haven't seen Kelsey play again this week. They're your top 2 tight ends. So Gronk is underachieving. Got hurt, went out with an ankle injury, had a couple of points for us. Had a big week 1, not 2 big weeks back to back. Kelsey on the flip side, we talked about that before. But I mean, every quarterback is doing well, and there's a handful of running backs and receivers who are really underperforming. And there's ones out there that are doing great. Juju, in the opposite of Antonio Brown, has been having a great early start of the season with 3 100-yard games. He missed it this week, as we know. But who knows? He might bounce back. But it didn't lend more points to Antonio Brown there. So there's some of the things that I noticed. One other running back I want to talk about is Christian McCaffrey. Okay, he didn't even play this week. But have you seen his commercials? I mean, he is the latest and greatest Peyton Manning. You know how Peyton Manning, I never expected him to be funny. Then he's on Saturday Night Live and he's all these commercials. I get a kick out of Peyton Manning. Well, it's going to be the same thing with this guy. I think he's got a good sense of humor. He's not afraid to make other people laugh or make fun of himself. He's a superstar. He's doing great. He didn't even play this week, and I wanted to talk about him in Monday Night Quarterback on Week 4. All right. Keep it brief, a little bit briefer here. Trying to think of different segments, and we're going to continue with Weasel of the Week, and I'm going to give it to myself as a fantasy football owner as a whole. And here's why. We talked about Leonard Fournette, right? We know Aaron Rodgers has a bruise on his knee, bone bruise or something like that, and he's really favoring it. Still putting up decent points, but he's not the Aaron Rodgers of past. And I had Baker Mayfield. So after last week, when Tyrod Taylor went out and Baker Mayfield's not a starter, I expect big things from him in fantasy football, and then he's going to be a lot of fun. So what do? I go out and find an owner who has Leonard Fournette, and I offer him, who also had Jimmy Garoppolo, right? So Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt, got to target those guys. That's fantasy football knowledge. As soon as somebody goes down, you go look to see who has them and how you can help them. And I had Baker Mayfield and Aaron Rodgers. I also had one other quarterback, which I'll bring in a second. So anyway, I targeted him, Jimmy Garoppolo owner, who has Fournette, and we made the trade, right? Great. So I give him Rodgers, I get Fournette, and instead of starting Baker Mayfield, Andy Dalton's playing the Falcons. My Falcons, you know, whoever I could play quarterback for the opposing team, I'm going to score a lot of points against the Falcons, you know. But who else did I have? I had 3 quarterbacks when I traded Aaron Rodgers away. I also had Trubisky. Left him on the bench. Not only did I leave him on the bench, I went out and used a waiver wire, a draft pick, or a waiver pick to get Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton did great, got me a lot of points, but what did Trubisky do? We just put him in, he had 6 touchdowns. I think he had 50 yards rushing on top of everything he did as a passer. So failure point there. Leonard Fournette, traded for him, gets me 3 points. Lousy performance, and he's going to be out for a couple more weeks, I think. So on that point right there, in addition to that, how many of you guys watch fantasy football now? So if you haven't seen my Sunday ritual, check it out. It's in one of these corners. I forget how that thing's, or it's mirrored, but I'll put a link up in this area or in this area that'll show you my Sunday rituals. Part of my ritual: playing pool, drinking martinis, and watching fantasy football now. Watching fantasy football now. Who am I going to start? Who am I going to start? They have Larry Fitzgerald ranked in the top 20. I have low expectations for him because of that offense, but they say start the higher player. I'm toying with the idea of starting Alshon Jeffrey. They tell me, don't start Alshon Jeffrey, give him a week to get used to it and see what he's like, and boom, wrong. Alshon Jeffrey on my bench. Don't even start him. Another failure point for the Weasel of the Week. And, I'll take that. It just had Fournette. I had Cook in another league. I had Alshon Jeffrey and Trubisky on the bench. Not looking good. There's some of the surprises, I think, that happened to me this week. I don't know if you had any surprises or anything like that. One last thing, I'm sorry, we'll get off Weasel of the Week because I feel pretty bad. I don't even want to tell you about me starting Carson because I didn't see that he was out of the game. Got me 0 points. He didn't play it down, didn't play in the game. So anyway, big Weasel of the Week. Hopefully you didn't fall into those traps with me. But now those Rams. Not only, Gurley we come to expect. Goff we mentioned as well too. But I mean, every receiver went off. Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, and of course Brandon Cooks all went off. All over 100 yards, crazy amount of points. Obviously Goff gobbled up a lot of the points there. As I looked around in my leagues, I'm like thinking, well, who starts these guys? Cooper Kupp, I could see somebody has a Cooper Kupp and they have a 3 receiver and they got him in there. Okay, great. Goff, yep. You got to have him probably in your starting lineup depending on who your other quarterback was, right? Gurley, of course. But Robert Woods, in all my leagues, everybody started Robert Woods. I was like, that's something I completely missed. And then Brandon Cooks, of course, people started him too, but people started Robert Woods. And here I am, leaving Alshon Jeffrey on the bench while I'm starting Carson. These are the troubles, the trials, the tribulations that you deal with each and every week in fantasy football. But I keep coming back for more. It's like golf. I take 99 shots and I only hit 1 good one. But I tell you what, I'm going to come out again because I hit 1 good shot. That's the way fantasy football is. One of these weeks I'm going to guess right and score a lot of points. Hopefully you do too. Thanks for tuning in. Love to hear feedback. Let me know what you saw in week 4. And let's see what happens tonight in Monday Night Football. Thanks for tuning in. Kimmel's Irish Pub.